Hello bibliophiles, and welcome back to Blatantly Bookish. I'm Marissa, and today I am here filming one of my favorite videos that I do each year, and that is my Victober TBR. It is the third annual Victober, which is a month-long read-along / readathon where we make the effort to read Victorian literature in the month of October. It's hosted by some of my favorite booktubers of all time, including Katie from Books and Things, Ange from Beyond the Pages, Lucy from Lucy the Reader, and Kate Howe. If you're interested in learning more about Victober itself, I will link all of their announcement videos down below. I haven't read as much Victorian literature as I usually do this year, and I feel like that's just something sorely missing in my reading life of late. So I cannot wait for Victober, which is at this point just under a week away, and I'm excited to immerse myself in the time period and rekindle my love for Victorian literature. So, time to share the books I'm excited to read. I am not going to go in challenge order because many of these books fit multiple challenges, which is pretty amazing and speaks to how wonderful the Victober challenges are this year, but I'll just kind of talk about each book a little bit. The first book on my TBR is Mary Barton by Elizabeth Gaskell. Gaskell is one of my favorite authors. I absolutely loved North and South and Wives and Daughters last year, and I'm really craving another Gaskell novel at this moment. I don't know much about this book, but I do know that it focuses on industrialization in the Victorian period and class conflict. I think that this book would be very interesting to think about in the context of Shirley by Charlotte Brontë, which I swear I took off my shelves a few seconds ago to show you guys, and now I can't seem to find it anywhere. So you can bet that after this video I am going to tear apart my apartment trying to find it. But anyway, I read Shirley ages ago and I considered reading it again with Mary Barton this Victober, but I'm trying to keep my TBR realistic if at all possible. Still, if you haven't narrowed down your TBR, you might want to consider reading these two together. I plan on reading Mary Barton with Petra, but there's also a big buddy read that Kate Howe is orchestrating, which we may end up joining as well. Mary Barton fits Challenge 1 because it is written by Gaskell, who is the favorite Victorian author of Kate Howe. It fits Challenge 2 because Mary Barton is a proper noun and in the title. And it fits Challenge 4 because it is Gaskell's first book, and so it was published anonymously. The next book I would love to read for Victober is Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. Despite my love of Victorian literature, this quintessential, well-known Victorian book has eluded my reading over the years. I watched a brilliant video by Lucy from Lucy the Reader a while back which inspired me to read this book. I believe it deals with Victorian morality and fallen women. Plus, it's a Hardy, so it should be a really captivating read. I was shocked to find out that this book meets 4 out of the 5 Victober challenges, so for whatever reason, if you don't want to devote your entire month to Victorian literature, you might want to add this one to your TBR. It's written by Hardy, so it meets the first challenge as it is the favorite author of Ange from Beyond the Pages. It meets Challenge 2 as it has a proper noun in the title. It meets Challenge 3 because it was written in 1891, which is within the last 10-year span of the Victorian period, and it meets Challenge 5 because there is a lovely adaptation of this, or so I am told, on Amazon Prime. Next up on my TBR is Lady Windermere's Fan by Oscar Wilde. Katie has raved about this play, and my Victober could use a bit of Oscar Wilde's famous wit, so I added Lady Windermere's Fan to this list. This bind-up actually has a lot of other plays of Oscar Wilde's that I could read as well if the mood strikes me, including A Woman of No Importance and An Ideal Husband. It also has The Importance of Being Earnest, as it says on the front cover. I've read that already, and I would like to read some of his other plays before rereading that one, but we'll see. I have a lot to read this month, so we'll see what I get around to. Lady Windermere's Fan has a proper noun in the title and was written in 1893, which is within the last 10 years of the Victorian period, and I also believe that there is a screen adaptation of this on Amazon Prime as well. I just realized that Amazon Prime has a ton of period dramas, especially Victorian period dramas, a lot of BBC adaptations and things like that, so if you have it, you should really check it out and see if there are some things that you might want to watch this Victober, or in general. I would also like to finish Our Mutual Friend by Charles Dickens this month. Yes, I am the absolute worst and still have not finished this book. I got fairly far into the book, as you can tell by the bookmark, and then I stopped reading it for many, many months. Finishing this book is a priority this month, and I do plan on making a whole video about why I've been such a slowpoke with it and how that ties into serialized reading. This is Katie from Books and Things' favorite author and favorite book, which therefore it meets the challenge of challenge 1, I believe, and she highly recommends the screen adaptation, so challenge 5, and I can't wait to check that out after I finally finish this book. And finally, Katie from Books and Things, who I realize I've been talking about a lot in this video, sold me on a slightly more obscure book from the Victorian period, and that is The Odd Women by George Gissing. It focuses on women's changing positions within Victorian society, and Katie promises that it's strangely modern. It was published in 1893, so it is within the last 10 years of the Victorian period and meets that challenge. Because of when it was written, it features typewriters and characters who take the tube or subway in London. And this is part of why I love Victorian literature so much. There is so much about Victorian literature and Victorian morals and society that applies to modern times. It was a period of feeling lost in so much flux and change and innovation, and I think to some degree we feel similarly in the digital age. There's a quote on the back cover, and it says, "So many odd women, no making a pair with them. The pessimists call them useless, lost, futile lives." I think that society still has many expectations of people today that we struggle to make sense of. And if we fail to conform to those expectations, does that make our lives useless, lost, and futile as well? I've heard this is a proto-feminist text, and I cannot wait to read it, if that was not abundantly clear already. And finally, there is a read-along of Wives and Daughters going on this month. I read Wives and Daughters for the first time this past winter, and I absolutely loved it. I plan on listening to it this month as my audiobook while I'm driving to and from work. It's very long, so I sort of jumped the gun on Victober and have already started listening to it, but I'm actually a tad worried about getting through it since Hoopla, the app I've been using, keeps crashing and will stop playing in the middle of my driving, so we'll see how that goes. That is my Victober TBR for you. I spent such a long time narrowing down this TBR. I have so many other Victorian books that I would love to read, but I wanted to keep this TBR fairly realistic, especially since I know that October is going to have a lot of personal and work-related matters for me to attend to. If you're interested though, I might do a little video about all of the honorable mentions to this TBR and all of the mostly unread Victorian books on my shelves. So I'm clearly very excited for Victober. If you have made a TBR or any other Victober related videos, I would love to take a look at them, so please let me know in the comments so I can check them out. Have you read any of these books that I've mentioned? Would you like to read any of these books? I'd love to hear any and all of your thoughts about Victober because I simply cannot wait. Happy reading, and I look forward to seeing you in another likely Victorian related video soon. Bye!